Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Before I start the discussion, please do let me know that I'm audible and visible for all those who are present. Do let me know. Am I audible and visible? Great. So, welcome to the Hindu News Analysis dated 15th May 2025. And I'm Shyam Kaggod taking up this particular discussion. For a comprehensive discussion in today's session, I've taken totally 10 articles, all from the Delhi edition of Hindu newspaper. Some of these articles are important for mains examination, and some of them are relevant only for the prelims examination. This has been done in a comprehensive way in order to ensure that all your current affairs requirements for clearing the civil services will be addressed. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Before I start the discussion, two very important announcements. After the session is over, the PPT that I'm going to use today will be made available in my Telegram channel. This is the link to the Telegram channel. Do join if you want to download. Second one, to basically improve the efficiency of the UPSC aspirants, to make the learning system much more comprehensive, to address all your requirements so that you will find it easier to ace the civil services examination. Unacademy IAS has launched a new program by the name of Platinum. If you want to get the experience of a platinum class, understand how different it is compared to others classes, etc., you can avail free classes today as well as tomorrow, 15th and 16th of May. If you're interested, do check out the details by clicking on the link provided in the description below. And before I start, today sharp at 2 p.m., Chetan sir will be taking up a marathon session covering the international relations as well as the social security issues that are needed for upcoming civils examination. Do join if you are appearing for the Civil Services 2025. Let me start the first one. How did India develop genome edited rice? A very important article from the context of the science and technology as well as from the context of Indian economy. Point number one, understand this. In the recent times, there are certain issues that are faced by the agriculture sector. For example, there is a change in the climate. And with the change in the climate, there is a concern that the overall production in the agriculture sector would be affected, and this would basically have an impact on the supply of agriculture commodities in the market. Point number two, there is a rising population. With the rise in the population, the demand for agriculture commodities, that is the food grains, is also rising up. And this is putting a lot of pressure on the farmers, on the agriculture fields, not only in the Indian market, but also in the international market as well. Point number three, there is also concern regarding availability of water. Availability of water. Because historically, if you see, let's take the example of India. The government of India promoted the model of a green revolution during 1960s. And one of the outcomes of the green revolution, which is not a favorable outcome, has been that the water levels in many of the states in India, many of the regions in India, the water levels have been decreasing or declining. With the decreasing water level, that is the underground water level, the supply of water for cultivation purposes is under pressure. And many authorities, for example, the SIDBI very recently published a paper which states that with the declining water levels, that is again underground water levels, there will be a lot of stress on the agriculture sector. Higher the stress, it will have a huge impact on the food security situation in India. And many of the credit rating agencies also have pointed this out. Their argument is with higher drop in the underground water levels, there will be impact on agriculture sector, there will be impact on supply of these food grains to industries for people to consume, etc., and this will have a bigger impact on the overall development as well as the growth of Indian economy. So these are the very important causes, or let's say the points of concern associated with not just India's agriculture system, but also global agriculture system as well. Now, what is the solution to all of it? What is the solution? Whenever you talk about the agriculture sector, there is always an argument that we should promote genetically modified crops. I'm writing the short form of this, GM, genetically modified crop. Very often you'll come across the argument that we should promote genetically modified crops. But please understand, whenever there's a discussion regarding genetically modified crops, along with, let's say, the positive aspects of the GM crops, that is, let's say, the climate resistant crops, or you can have a higher productivity, you can use it to achieve food security, you can use it to basically achieve higher production, exports, reduce import dependence, etc., etc. There is also various concerns which are raised associated with GM crops. For example, if the GM crop is promoted, what will happen to the indigenous varieties which are present in the market? The ones which are present historically in India or from time immemorial, what will happen to those particular crops? What will happen if the GM crop is not giving the expected results in terms of protection, climate resilience, etc.? And what about, let's say, the companies, commercial entities which will have the right over the GM crops? Will they not hold the farmers in their hands? That is essentially dictate terms to the farmers. So there are multiple concerns which have been raised against the concept of genetically modified crops. Now, in addition to the genetically modified crops, there is one more variety which is there in the newspaper now. Please understand, the GE crop, that is a genome edited crop. Genome edited crops. And I'll start from the basics in this particular context. All of you, please listen to me carefully. Genetic modification is different, genome editing is different. Essential concept is we need to develop certain crops, or let's say varieties of crops, which will be yielding certain results. It could be higher productivity, it could be climate resilience, it could be, right, let's say higher production, etc. So you want to achieve certain objectives. You can achieve that in two ways. One, make editing or edit a certain part of the genome, or else change the part of the genome. Simple. Okay, I'll explain to you. Genome essentially is the genetic material. Genome is part of the genetic material. For example, in the context of humans, what is a genetic material? That is essentially, right, the DNA. DNA, right? So DNA is a genetic material, and this particular genetic material will be transferred from, right, let's say parents to the children. In the same way, it is also genetic material in the crops. So in context of the crops, understand this. One way you can alter the genetic material. Alter means you can cut the part of the genetic material and introduce a foreign genetic material into this. When there is an introduction of a foreign genetic material, this is called as genetically modified crop. Is everybody able to understand? There is a foreign GNA, I'm sorry, foreign DNA in this particular, right, DNA, and that is called as a genetically modified crops. Whereas in case of genome editing, no genetic material from a foreign entity. Essentially, the genome is edited. Let's imagine this is a genome. Genome is a sequence of nucleotides. You will cut this particular part of the genome, and once you cut this particular part of the genome, you are not going to introduce any foreign genome. The same genome will be used to produce proteins. And I hope you understand, in this case, you have not introduced a foreign genetic material. You are using the same original genetic material, and that is called as genome edited crop. Is everybody able to understand the difference between genetic editing and genetically modified crops? Be very careful, understand the difference between both of them. Done? And what is the importance of this? What is the importance? Whenever you develop these particular genetically modified crops, there is always a concern over, right, let's say the original varieties of the crops. There has to be a lot of test trials which have to be conducted, etc. And all of this is regulated under a law called as Environmental Protection Act of 1986, EPA 1986. EPA 1986 basically regulates the production, the distribution, imports, sale of genetically modified crops. Whereas if the crop is genetically edited, I hope you understand, if the crop is genetically edited, there is an exemption that is provided for these particular crops under the EPA 1986, which means the same rules and regulations, the same process that you use for genetically modified crops need not be applied for genetically edited crops. You should be very clear regarding these particular points. And in this particular context, there is a technical term. Remember this: SDN 1, SDN 2, and SDN 3. SDN 1, 2, and 3. What is this idea for SDN 1, 2, and 3? SDN stands for Site Directed Nuclease. I'll write the full form here: Site Directed Nuclease. So, site directed nuclease 1, site directed nuclease 2, site directed nuclease 3. The STN3 is generally associated with genetic modification. STN1 and 2 is associated with genome editing. And please remember these differences. Why? Now, in India, for the first time ever, I'll repeat the statement here. In India, for the first time ever in the global market, there is a variety of rice which is genome edited, which is a genome edited rice variety. To be very precise here, genome editing for agriculture commodities is not new. It is nothing new. Post 2000, multiple countries around the world have developed genome edited crops. It has been adopted in multiple countries, developed as well as developing, for example, in Japan, USA, etc. And in many of the countries, they generally allow the production and the sale of genome edited crops. They basically prohibit the production and sale of genetically modified crops. Right? So, all these points are very important. Why? Listen to me carefully. Like I said, India has developed two rice varieties for the first time in the global market. These both are genome edited crops. And the names are DRR Dhan 100, or else the variety is also called as a Kamala rice variety. It is essentially a genetic edited version of Sambha Masuri rice variety. And the second one is a Pusa DST rice one, and it has been developed from one more rice variety, that is MTU 1010, that is 1010 rice variety. Both of them are genetically edited crops. And the government of India very recently has announced a policy. What is the policy? They want to reduce the they want to reduce the area under the cultivation of rice, and they want to increase the area under the cultivation of pulses and oilseeds. Is my point clear to all of you? I'll repeat the statement. They are calling this as -5 plus 10 approach. -5 plus 10 approach. What is this -5 and a plus 10 approach? They want to reduce the area or acreage. Acreage means area used for cultivation. They want to reduce the area under the cultivation of rice by 5 hectares or 5 million hectares, and they want to increase the area or the acreage for the cultivation of pulses and oilseeds. And how can they do that? Essentially, if you can increase the productivity, if you can increase the yield of the rice varieties, You can expect to produce, you can have the same amount of production even if you reduce the area under the cultivation of this kind of a crop variety. So how can you do that? You can promote these kind of genetically edited rice variety. So these are certain very important points. Now, what is the benefit of having these kinds of genetically edited rice varieties? Point number one, please listen to me very carefully. The authorities are saying these are climate resistant. These are climate resistant varieties. That is, even if there is a change in the climate, it will not have a huge impact on the productivity production using these varieties. Second, these rice varieties, especially the first one, has a lower time period. It has a lower time period needed for the cultivation. That is, number of days which are required to cultivate this particular rice variety is lesser compared to the original rice variety. And what is the benefit of this? Imagine states where they will basically burn the stubble. I hope you understand this. There are various states where the stubble burning happens. And what is the reason for the stubble burning? They need to clear the field because they need to prepare the field for the next cycle of cultivation. Now, just think of this. If we can reduce the time period taken for the cultivation of the crops, don't you think that will be one of the, let's say, benefits if you want to do away with the stubble burning, right? So the time taken for the cultivation cycle will be lesser for this crop variety. Third one, it requires a lesser fertilizer as well. It needs a lesser fertilizer compared to the original rice variety. And the fourth one, because of all of these reasons, it is said to be less emitting. It is less emitting in terms of methane emission. These kind of crop varieties are less methane emitting varieties. These are the four very important benefits that we are expecting from genetically edited or genome edited rice varieties. Everybody is okay with the idea of a genome edited rice varieties here? Please be very careful. It is connected to the economy, that is agriculture. It is connected to, right, let's say science and technology. Questions can be asked. Please be very careful. Now, associated with this, I've given one MCQ. Consider the following statements. The genetically modified crops are regulated under EPA 1986. Second one, India has developed world's first genetically edited rice variety. How many of these two statements are true? Both? Only one? Only two? Do let me know your right answer in the comment section. Otherwise, I'll give you the answer at the end of the session. Do not worry. I've also given a question for you to practice mains answer writing. Practice mains answer writing. The question is, discuss the need and the issues associated with genetically edited crops. Genetically edited crops. What is the benefit? What are the concerns? And by the way, if you're worried, sir, what about the concerns associated with these kind of crops? Are there any concerns? Right now, there is also an opposition to these two varieties of rice in India. Right? There is a opposition to these two rice varieties in India. Reason being, there are certain farmer organizations who are opposing these two rice varieties. Their argument is whether you are genetically modifying or you are editing. All of you able to understand? Whether you are modifying or editing, it is associated with plant variety, crop varieties. The farmers might be affected even if you're editing the genome of a crop. There could not be or there may not be any transparency. Certain companies which will produce these seeds will have control over the production and supply of the seeds, right, etc. So there is also a concern associated with this. That's a reason there is also a group of farmers who are opposing these two genetically edited rice varieties in India. Done? Right. So, what are the reasons why we should have genetic editing of the crops? And what are the concerns associated with genetic editing of the crops? Let me go forward. Next article, Road to Safety. I've clubbed two articles here, one from the central page Second, one more judgment or the order issued by the Supreme Court of India regarding footpaths in India. Let's club both of them and have a detailed discussion. Point number one. In case of India, please understand there is a duality. What is a duality I'm talking about? On one side, India is said to have one of the largest road networks in the world. One of the largest road networks in the world. What is the total length of road network in India? USA is said to have around 69 lakh kilometers, around 69 lakh kilometers length of road network. And in case of India, it is generally said India has around 63 lakh kilometers worth of road network. So, in terms of ranking, India is said to have the second largest road networks in the world. But what is the duality nature here? Duality is that despite having one of the largest road networks in the world, please understand, India also accounts for one of the largest fatality rates because of road accidents. We account for a large chunk of the fatality rates, that is, deaths on the roads because of accidents. India accounts for one of the largest numbers in the global market. How much? According to the estimates given by various agencies, India accounts annually around 1.6 lakh deaths. The road accidents in India generally lead to death of around 1.6 lakh people annually in India. So, on one side, highest road network in the world, and second, India accounts for one of the largest road accident deaths in the world. And by the way, just because we have 60 lakh, 63 lakh kilometer worth or length of the road network, do not be happy about it. Please do not be happy about it. Why? I'll tell you. Out of 63 lakh kilometers, can anybody tell me how much is the length of this road network, which is highways in India? Let me see. How much of this particular road network is highways in India? How much percentage according to you people? Please understand, out of this 63 lakh kilometers, hardly around 5%. Hardly around 5% of the road network is the highways. Highways in the form of national highways, state highways. And the remaining 95% essentially is municipality roads, essentially is rural roads, etc. So, a large chunk of this 63 lakh kilometer is not highways, and there is a reason why we require highways. The requirement of highways is because we need to ensure there is a proper connection in form of road connectivity if you want to transport. If you want to transport, you require road connectivity if you want to transport. And by the way, large chunk of transportation in India, around 60% of the transportation in India essentially is conducted using road connectivity itself. It is done using road connectivity. So these are certain important points. Do not memorize the length of the road network. UPSC will not ask you about that. Don't waste your time. But what is the connection here? The connection is very simple. The writers simply say getting access to road network and traveling using the road network should not be a problem in India, should not be a concern in India. When I go onto the road, if I want to travel from point A to point B, I should not be worried about, let's say, the traffic. I should not be worried about the congestion. I should not be worried about, let's say, possibility of incurring an accident or somebody coming and hitting me. And that should not be a problem in India. But that is a problem. I hope you understand. That is essentially a problem in India. For example, have a look at this article here. The Supreme Court of India, right? Look at this. The Supreme Court of India says under Article 21, right to life. Under Article 21, now there is one more area added, one more right to life area added. That is a right to access to footpaths. Right to access to footpaths. Right, under Article 21, right to life and liberty. Now the Supreme Court of India simply says the right of pedestrians to use a footpath is guaranteed under Article 21 now. And this is important reason being, in many of the cities you must have seen, the footpaths either will not be present on the main roads, by the way. Either the footpath is not present, footpath is not clearly demarcated. Even if the footpath is there, there'll be a lot of, right, let's say digging work that will be happening. Footpath is there, the bikers will be driving or riding on the footpaths. There'll be encroachment on the footpath, etc. So the Supreme Court of India simply says, because the footpaths are not easily accessible to the people, it is not easily accessible to the people, people end up walking on the road. And when people walk on the road, there is always right, a danger of people being involved, hurt in an accident. That's the reason the Supreme Court of India has issued an order to all the states now. It has issued an order to all the states, basically form a framework under which the footpaths would be developed and maintained in all these regions. Footpaths should be developed, should be maintained, should be made accessible for the people to use the footpath. And that is second point. Point number 3. I told you about road accidents in India. And I told you the data, 1.6 lakh people annually die in India because of road accidents. The World Bank report simply says India in the next 10 years needs to spend somewhere around $109 billion. Have a look at the data here. India needs to spend somewhere around $109 billion in order to reduce the accidents, that is the death of the people, by 50%. If you want to reduce the fatality rates by 50%, in the next 10 years, you need to spend 109 billion. Now the question arises, from where will you get this 109 billion? The writers basically argue in favor of one reform. What is the reform here? They argue that, can we use the concept of corporate social responsibility, CSR? Can we use the concept of corporate social responsibility? That is, let's say there are certain companies which are involved in the manufacturing of vehicles. Let's say four-wheelers. These particular companies will have to come under the corporate social responsibility, where they will have to spend 2% of the average profits of the last 3 years, 2% on, let's say, corporate social responsibility. Can we make a system in such a way that these corporate social responsibility funds will be utilized to develop infrastructure in the road? And when I say develop infrastructure, listen to me carefully. We need certain infrastructure in the form of, let's say, installation of CCTVs. Correct? We need to install CCTVs. And by the way, Government of India has already implemented multiple reforms. For example, in recent times, Government of India has announced vehicle scrappage policy. All of you heard of this? Vehicle scrappage policy. That is those particular vehicles which fail the fitness test, which will basically exhaust the registration time period. You'll have to do away with these, right? Let's say large vehicles. Vehicle scrappage policy has been announced. The Government of India has also announced installation of CCTVs at multiple places, so that the enforcement of the policy, enforcement of the rules is done properly. The Government of India has also announced a policy where there is a promotion of seat belt provision. That is, the companies will have to provide seat belts. The people who are driving will have to wear seat belts. Airbags will have to be installed in the vehicles. How many airbags in which type of a vehicle, etc. So I hope you understand. The Government of India is already implementing multiple reforms, has taken multiple steps or measures in order to increase the safety, reduce the cases of accidents on the roads in it. But having said so, here there is a further argument which has been put in, which says we need to invest money. Right? We need to invest money. For example, there is a term called as a black spots. There is a term called as black spots. In case of a road network, there's a term called as a black spot. Government of India so far has identified around 10,000 black spots on the road network. What are these black spots? It is essentially those regions on the road network where accidents, the probability of accidents is very high, and where the instances of accidents is also very high. So you need to have certain type of infrastructure, let's say warning systems, or let's say the speed bumpers, etc., which are installed in these regions, that the vehicles which are crossing the regions will reduce the speed, will follow the guidelines, and the instances of accidents automatically will go down. Right? So, in that particular regards, the writers basically argue there is a need to invest money, and one way to basically raise the funds and invest money in this particular situation is by altering, or let's say amending the provision of the CSR, asking these companies, right, to invest these funds under CSR in developing this kind of a infrastructure which will improve the safety, which will essentially ensure the cases or the instances of road accidents will come down, which will improve the overall, right, let's say the experience of traveling on the roads. Done. So these are certain important points. Although the article simply says, the writers simply say, it is the duty of the government. It is the duty of the government to ensure these policies are implemented. And we should have a policy where we should assume that there will be certain instances of the accidents. We need to reduce the impact of it. But I believe, in addition to this being a duty of the government, it is also duty of all of us. It is our duty. It is right our responsibility. Why? Listen to me carefully. Whenever accidents will happen, a lot of times we look at the accidents only from the context of loss of lives. Correct? And it is, I hope you understand, it is appropriate. You need to focus more on the death, right? Let's say the loss of precious lives whenever the accidents will happen. But the argument is, World Bank simply says, whenever you have the, right, let's say accidents on the roads, it is not just a loss of lives, it is having a larger impact on the overall economy. It has a larger impact on the overall economy. How much? According to the World Bank, these accidents account, or these will cost a country such as India around 3% of GDP. Remember this particular number. These kinds of accidents which are happening in India are costing India around 3% of GDP. How so? When accident will happen, no doubt there is a loss of lives. Don't you think this will also lead to, let's say, certain cost because of this in the form of repairs and maintenance? It will also cost, let's say, the healthcare sector. It will also have a cost on the insurance sector, etc. So I hope you understand this. Overall, right, this is a World Bank report which is stating this. In the context of India, because the number of accidents are so high, the deaths are so high, these will account for around 3% of GDP. Right? So there is an economic cost also, there is a social cost also associated with road safety in India. So these are certain important points associated with the article here. I've clubbed two articles. Please make a note of this. Now, one more question for you to practice answer writing. Road safety is not a luxury, it is a prerequisite for sustainable and equitable development. Elaborate in 250 words a 15 marker questions. A 15 marker question. So, I've given you two questions for mains answer writing practice. Please try it out. Now, let me go forward to the next article. Right? In sequence, the fourth article. Second one was a club of two articles. Justice Gavai takes over as the Chief Justice of India, as a CJI, 52nd CJI. Justice Gavai becomes the 52nd Chief Justice of India. Now, some of the factual points. Like I said, he will become the 52nd CJI. Point number two, he will remain CJI for the next 6 months. Although the Hindu newspaper says 6 months, actual data will become at around 7 months. At around 7 months. Okay. Point number three, the oath of right, the oath for the CJI is administered by the President of India. Remember that. Look at the photo, you will realize it. The oath is administered by the President of India. Can be asked in the prelims examination. Fourth point, whether it is a CJI or a justice of a Supreme Court, they will generally work until they attain the age of 65 years. That is the retirement age is 65 years. Right, so these are certain important points associated with, let's say, the Chief Justice of India, that is Supreme Court's Chief Justice. But when I was reading about this yesterday, when this appeared in the, let's say, multiple website, there was one very interesting analysis that was conducted, which I believe is more important for you when you talk about UPSC mains or even for interview. Is it time for India to essentially have a relook at how CJI is appointed and what is the retirement age? Listen to me very carefully. I know a lot of you will read the article, memorize the factual information. Good, do that. But let's go beyond this. Is it time for India to have a relook at essentially how CJI is appointed and what is the retirement age? Let me give you the argument in the context of this. What is the argument? Please have a look at the table here. Do not worry, UPSC is not going to ask you about this table. What is the information given in this table? There was an analysis which was conducted from 1950 to 2018, covering the period from 1950 to 2018. What was the analysis about? What is the tenure of different CJIs? What is the tenure of different CJIs? Essentially, a CJI is right the senior most justice in the Supreme Court. The convention or the unwritten rule that is followed is the senior most justice in the Supreme Court is recommended by the outgoing CJI, again through collegium system, to be appointed as the next CJI. An unwritten convention that is followed in India. But now the question arises, because we are following this particular system, are we are we harming the judiciary, especially at the Supreme Court level? Are we doing good or are we harming the system? Why? Let me explain this. If you look at the different tenures of the CJIs, upon analysis from 1950 to 2018, the analysis shows the average tenure is around 1.5 years. The average tenure is around 1.5 years. That is essentially 18 months is the average tenure. But if you look at the current CJI and the previous CJI had a tenure of 6 months, and the new CJI, that is the 51st and the 52nd CJI, will also have a tenure of around 6 months. Now you tell me, CJI being such a very important official, or let's say such a important, let's say, person in the whole judiciary system, if they have a tenure of only 6 months, don't you think this will not create a stability? Instead, it will create instability in the whole judicial system. That is, imagine this CJI will take the office of CJI. I'm sorry, this justice will take the office of CJI even before he can implement multiple measures, even before he can change the system in the judiciary, etc. His tenure will get over. He will reach the retirement age of 65 years and automatically the next CJI is appointed. So this is a concern which has been raised by various experts in the recent times. They are basically calling this as a rotating CJI chair. Rotating CJI chair, that is a CJI, a justice will become CJI, they will be appointed, they will sit on the chair, and immediately after 6 months they will vacate it. New person will take the chair, again they will immediately vacate it. So in recent times there is a concern that the chair of CJI, the position of CJI, basically multiple people are taking over the CJI, and they are not able to make effective reforms, implement effective reforms. For example, what is the important role of Chief Justice of India? CJI is referred to as a master of roster. They are referred to as a master of roster. They will form the benches. They will allocate the cases, etc. That is the reason CJI is referred to as a master of roster. And if the CJI is there only for the period of 6 months, It will not create stability. It will basically keep on having a destabilization effect on the whole judiciary system, especially at the Supreme Court level. These are certain points which have been mentioned. Now, what is the comparison? Is there any comparison that we can compare and simply say what reforms we can implement? For example, have a look at this. In case of UK, in Britain, basically the process that is followed for the appointment of CJI, of course, the name is different in case of Britain, but don't worry. CJI, let's take CJI. So, in case of UK, the process of appointment is different. By default, the senior most is not appointed as CJI. And even if they are appointed as CJI, the retirement age in UK is 75 years. Whereas in case of India, it is 65 years. Right? So that is the reason there is a question mark over the process that we are following. What about USA? In case of USA, once you are appointed as a justice in the Supreme Court, there is no retirement age for it. Remember this, comparison wise, there is no retirement age. For lifetime, you can be a justice in the Supreme Court until and unless you are impeached or you take retirement or basically the justice passes away. So in different countries, different methods are there. Whereas in case of India, we follow a convention of senior most justice and second, retirement age of 65 years. So what is the solution? What is the solution to this? And the discussion will become much more frequent in the coming days. I'll tell you why. If you go by seniority, if you go by the process of appointing the senior most justice as CJI, Justice B.V. Nagaratna, he is one of the very well-known justices in the Supreme Court now. Justice B.V. Nagaratna is going to become CJI in 2027. But for how many days? Hardly around 30 plus days. I hope you understand. Hardly around 30 plus days. Right? She will be one of the shortest serving Chief Justices in India. But the positive aspect of that is she will become the first ever female CJI. In India, she'll become the first ever CJI. But the worrying fact is she will be CJI hardly for around 30 plus days. The argument is it requiring a reform? One way to make a reform is, can we change the process of appointing CJI? But various experts argue this will be much more dangerous. I hope you understand. Right? Can we change the process of appointing CJI? Reason is, instead of looking at seniority, can we look at other parameters to appoint CJI? Yes, we can do that. But many experts argue against this. Why? If you basically forego the model of, let's say, seniority, and if you decide on different principles or different, let's say, parameters, it can lead to more of a political intervention. It can lead to a non-transparent process. It can lead to favoritism in appointment of CJI. So, although this is a recommendation, not in favor of it. Many experts are not in favor of it. Second, which is more of a practical recommendation is, can we increase the retirement age? Think of this. Can we increase the retirement age? Can we increase the retirement age? Yes, that can be done, and which is, many experts argue, a more practical approach. For example, a law commission report. A law commission report recommends that we should increase the retirement age of the CJIs by 3 years. We should increase the retirement age of CJIs by 3 years. That is, let's say I am 64 and a half years. And if I am appointed as a CJI, instead of retiring at 65, I will retire at 68. This will give me sufficient time period to basically implement multiple policies, implement certain reforms, right? Make the system much more streamlined and at the same point of time, leave a long lasting legacy as well. Right? I'll be remembered for all of this. That will be my legacy. For example, in recent times, right, I'm pretty sure all of you will agree with me. If I ask you name one CJI, you will basically either you agree or disagree with the judgments. You will quote the name of Justice Chandrachud. Correct? Most of you will quote the name of Justice Chandrachud, D.Y. Chandrachud. Why? Because Justice D.Y. Chandrachud was CJI for a period of around 2 years. Was CJI for a period of around 2 years. And his father, Justice's father, Y.V. Chandrachud, he has been the longest serving CJI in independent India. Please remember, longest serving CJI in independent India. How much? 7 years plus. 7 years plus. That is 88 months. Right. So these are certain important points associated with the CJI. Please be very careful. Factual information relevant for prelims and right. Let's say the debate about right. Let's say CJI, the tenure of CJI, etc. More relevant for mains exam. Both are important. Please make a note of this. Okay. Associated with this, I've given an MCQ. Consider the following statements regarding CJI or Supreme Court. The oath to CJI is administered by the President of India. The CJI retires upon attaining the age of 65 years. The retirement age for the High Court and the Supreme Court judges is the same. I'm pretty sure a lot of you will be able to answer first and second statement. There should be some confusion regarding third state. Try it out. Do not worry. I'll give you the key answer later. Next article. Indian team to visit United Nations or to go to United Nations submit certain evidence associated with Pahalgam attack. Submit data regarding Pahalgam attack. What is the importance of this news? Listen to me carefully. In the United Nations, there is a Security Council Committee. Point number one, Security Council Committee. And this is very well known as a committee 1267. Committee 1267. Remember, the number can be asked in the prelims. Sir, why it is called as a 1267 committee or 1267 sanctions committee? The reason why it is called as a 1267 sanctions committee is because of, right, it is based on the number, that is based on the number on which, or basically the number through which the resolution is introduced in the United Nations. So the resolution number 2067, which was introduced in 1999, is important. Take a note of this. In addition to the resolution number 1267, there is one more resolution number 1989. The year associated with this is 2011. Another resolution number is 2253. Year associated is 2015. These are the three resolution numbers. All of these three are associated with United Nations Security Council Committee. Okay, this is point number one. Point number two. What is the importance of this? Let's say there are certain terrorist organizations. These terrorist organizations or the people associated with the terrorist organizations are easily getting access to funding. These are able to get access to, let's say, weapons, etc. So, in this particular regard, the member countries of United Nations can approach United Nations Security Council Committee, submit documentation, submit the data to this UNSC committee, and the UNSC committee will impose sanctions, will impose sanctions on individuals, organizations, or right, let's say these are terrorist organizations. Everybody is able to understand what kind of sanctions? The individuals might be barred from traveling. The trust or the organizations might be barred to get access to funds. They will be barred, they'll be blacklisted from getting access to weapons. These kind of sanctions can be imposed by the United Nations Security Council Committee. This is point number two. Point number three. Have a look at this. Point number three. India is approaching the United Nations Security Council Committee now to basically provide data or evidence associated with Pahalgam attack. Why? Why are we submitting this particular data here? Why are we submitting the evidence? The reasons Government of India says, the reason is simple. There is a terrorist organization by the name of the Resistance Front, TRF, Resistance Front. When the Pahalgam attack took place, it was the TRF which claimed responsibility of the Pahalgam attack. Simple. which claimed responsibility of attack in Pahalgam. Initially, in two instances, they claimed right responsibility, and later on they said, right, we are not responsible. They backtracked, they withdrew themselves. The argument of government of India is the TRF is essentially a front to various terrorist organizations. He is a front to a banned terrorist organization by the name of Lashkar-e-Taiba, LET, very well known or let's say infamous terrorist organization, LET, which has been sanctioned by the way, and it was essentially the headquarters of LET, which was attacked, where we basically bombed in the Operation Sindhu. Right? So argument is the government of India simply says LET, because it is a banned organization, a sanctioned organization, it has set up various other organizations such as a TRF, which they are using as a front to carry out terrorist activities. Now, government of India has approached United Nations Security Council Committee, and they want to submit this particular data or the evidence of the terrorist attack to basically get this organization blacklisted, to get this organization under the sanctioned list, right, in the United Nations Security Council Committee. But is it that easy? Right? Let me give you one more point as well. Is it that easy to get these organizations listed like this, individuals blacklisted under the committee? Answer is no, it's not simple. Reason being, the UNSC has a 15 members. UNSC, that is United Nations Security Council Committee, has 15 members. And out of 15 members, there is a permanent 5, P5. One of the countries, China. There have been instances in the past where government of India has tried to bring in or basically get an individual listed under the right, let's say the UNSC committee. They wanted a particular person to be blacklisted under this, but China has vetoed India's move. There have been instances in the past, right, where China has vetoed against India's move. So argument is simple here. Although government of India has approached UNSC now, whether this will be sanctioned now, whether right, let's say UNSC members will accept it, you will have to wait and see. Done. So these are certain important points associated with the Indian team visiting right United Nations Security Council Committee to submit the data or the evidence associated with Pahalgam attack. Okay, let me go forward. Let me go forward. And I can see in the chat section something else is happening. And my dear, those who are here to learn, focus on learning. Focus on learning. Right? Leave other work. Focus on learning. Social media handles of Turkiye, China outlets barred. Two important things have happened in the last 24 hours which have been reported. This is an article from Hindu newspaper. There was one more article in Indian Express today. One more article. That is, on one side, the government of India now has issued orders to block, basically block the social media handles of, right, let's say the channels from Turkey and China. We want to block these particular social media handles. Reason being, government of India says these social media handles are involved in the spreading of false information or misinformation. Simple. These are involved in spreading of false or misinformation. And the government of India simply says, if you want to report the news, but do not run basically certain, right, let's say the media handles where false data will be provided, misinformation will be provided. And this is one initiative or one step which has been undertaken by the government of India in the recent Operation Sindoor as well. At various times, you must have seen the government officials, defense personnel, etc., giving clarification or basically trying to bust the myth of fake news. Either it could be certain claims are done by Pakistan or certain claims are done by media outlets, etc. Because understand this, one way a panic can be created, a way panic can be created and a narrative can be built. And this was very much evident during Operation Sindoor, where Western media agencies were basically highlighting only the viewpoint of Pakistan and not the viewpoint which is correct, and not the viewpoint which basically supported the argument of Indian government, and which was fact, by the way. So they were basically following an agenda. Now government of India simply says we will not allow this to happen at this point of time. If you want to report news, report it. But if you are spreading fake news, if you are spreading false information, such channels or such media handles, even if they can be of government owned entities of a different country, we are going to ban them. We are going to simply ban these social media handles. This is one piece of news that you need to understand. Second piece of news, like I said, in Indian Express, which was present, was essentially now there is something called as, right, let's say, basically the tourist economic activity associated with the tourism. Right. So, in case of India, please understand, large number of tourists used to visit both Turkey and Azerbaijan. Understand this. Large number of Indian tourists used to visit Turkey as well as Azerbaijan. How much? According to the data that has been published in 2023, more than 3 lakh tourists, around 3.4, 3.3 to 3.4 lakh tourists, Indian tourists visited Turkey or Turkey, and around 2.3 lakh tourists from India visited Azerbaijan. It has happened in the past also. For example, last year, when certain ministers of the Maldives government criticized or basically gave defamatory statements regarding Prime Minister of India. That time also, many of these Indian tourists who were visiting Maldives, they cancelled their trips. They basically cancelled the visit to Maldives. Same thing is happening in the context of Turkey as well as Azerbaijan. For example, in this case, many of these the companies such as Make My Trip, Ease My Trip, etc., they are only publishing, right, various newspaper articles, and they are giving the statements where they are simply saying, do not visit Turkey. Do not visit Turkey as long as it is not necessary for you, as long as it is not a last resort for you. They have reported more than 200% cancellations in the last 1 week. They have reported 50% decline in the trips that have been, right, basically booked, right, in these two destinations in the last 1 week. So two events here. One, right, the government of India has decided to basically block the handles, right, ban the handles from Turkey as well as China for reporting misinformation or fake information or fake news. And second one is, lot of the tourists from India, essentially they are canceling their trips, right, cutting short their trips, right. They have basically taken a decision not to visit Turkey this year, right, basically because Turkey as well as Azerbaijan supported Pakistan in recent events. And so these are the two important points. Next article, PLFS. The central government has a revamped PLFS. What is this PLFS? Listen to me carefully. The government of India, that is Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, MOSPI, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, earlier used to publish a survey which was called as Employment Unemployment Survey. Employment Unemployment Survey. The Employment and Unemployment Survey was conducted once every 5 years. Is the point clear? It was published once every 5 years. Later on, from 2017, Government of India discontinued the Employment and Unemployment Survey and introduced a new system called as PLFS, Periodic Labor Force Survey. Periodic Labor Force Survey. The Periodic Labor Force Survey was published once every quarter and has also published annually. Remember both the points here. It was published every quarter and was published annually. The quarter wise data was provided regarding, let's say, the employment rate, unemployment rate, worker population ratio, etc., for urban population, whereas the data for rural and urban was published annually. Right? Rural plus urban was published annually. Now, despite changing the methodology where the data was published once every 5 years to quarterly, there was a lacuna. The problem. What was the problem? We wanted this data to be published more frequently. We wanted this data to be published more frequently. Why? The labor market is very dynamic in it. It is very dynamic in it. From one month to the next month, because of internal factor and external factors, lot of changes happening in terms of creation of jobs. And that is the precise reason what the government of India now has announced is they are going to restructure, revamp even PLFS. How so? Certain important changes. Listen to me carefully. Now they'll be collecting the data from rural market as well as urban market. We'll collect the data from rural as well as urban households, and we are going to publish the data monthly. Is the point clear? Do let me know in the chat section. We are going to publish the data on monthly basis. This will be much better compared to the current situation where we are going to publish the data only on quarterly basis. I'll give you one example. In case of USA, United States of America, how many jobs are created? That is published every month. It is published every month. And what is the use of it? If RBI wants to make a policy, don't you think a monthly publication of jobs data will be much better in making a policy? If government of India wants to make a policy regarding creation of a job, a monthly database of jobs created, unemployment rate, etc., will be better in terms of policy making. That is the reason now government of India simply says, be it rural or urban, we will publish the data every month like this, and that is going to start from this year. From this year, it is going to start, and we will also publish quarterly data. We will also publish quarterly data, right? So these are the two very important outcomes. In addition to this, the government also says when we are going to collect the data and publish a report, there will be additional details provided in the report. There will be additional details provided in the report. What kind of details? Four details. Remember this. There will be details provided regarding education of the sample covered under this survey. There will be data regarding land which is possessed by the households. There will be data regarding how much of the land has been leased out by the households, and right, what is the data regarding how much income which has been generated by these households from right sources of pension, from the source of rent income, etc. Right, so these are the four additional details which will be published right in this particular report. Everybody is okay? So please make a note of this. PLFS has been revamped now. Be very careful. Books, if they give you that it is published quarterly, now it is not just quarterly, it will be published quarterly as well as monthly. Okay, let me go forward now. Right, let me go forward. There are two important surveys which have been quoted in this article. Please make a note of this. One is the SRS. What is the SRS? Sample Registration System. The data regarding SRS 2021 has been published. Do not memorize the data. That is not important because state-wise data is given here. Second one is the CRS 2021. CRS 2021, right? What is the CRS 2021? Civil Registration System 2021. What is the use of SRS and CRS 2021? Listen to me carefully. There is one demographic survey. Demography means population. So there is one demography survey which is conducted by the government, that is essentially the Registrar General, where we basically collect the data. Understand, we survey, collect the data and provide details regarding what is the birth rate, what is the death rate. Is it okay? What is the birth rate? What is the death rate? We provide data using right a survey method which is called as SRS 2021 or SRS, Sample Registration System. There is also one more type of a data set which is published, which is called as a CRS, Citizen Registration System, wherein the data of registration of the births, wherein data regarding the registration of births and deaths, the data regarding that is provided. One is a survey based data, and the second one is the data where you are collecting basically the numbers from what has been registered by the citizen. Now, what is the importance of this particular data? What is given in the newspaper article here? The importance of this particular article is, have a look at this. The birth rates in right three regions: Delhi, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Delhi, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu, the birth rates have been declining twice the rate of national average. What is the meaning of this? Birth rate essentially refers to, right, there is a term called as crude birth rate. In essence, how many children, how many live births of the children has taken place for every 1,000 people is called as a crude birth rate. What is the importance of this? Very often you will come across the argument that the population in India is growing very fast. Correct? Very highly populated country. There is a need to stabilize the population, etc. In that particular context, if you look at this data, that is the crude birth rate in some of the regions, such as Delhi, such as Tamil Nadu, if the crude birth rate is falling at a very faster pace, what does it indicate? It indicates that the rate at which the children are being born in India, the rate, that is the increasing rate, is slowing down. Right? It is actually slowing down, which is considered to be a good parameter. I repeat, which is considered to be a good parameter. Why? It will help us in stabilizing the population. That is point number one. It is essentially indicating that there are certain services which are available to, right, let's say mothers, right, or let's say women. For example, contraceptive pills. It is also an indicator of that. It is also an indicator that with lesser and lesser children being born, the pressure on the family to provide for the children, it could be, let's say, healthcare, it could be food, it could be education, that kind of a burden on the family will also be managed in a better way. So these are certain important points associated with the SRS 2021 database. Lot of factual data is given in this. Please do not make a note of anything there. Waste of your time. Every state, how much is the rate they have given? Waste of your time. Okay. Now, next article, Colombia joins BRI. Colombia joins BRI, that is a Belt and Road Initiative. Please understand, back in the year 2013, back in the year 2013, China announced an initiative called as right, One Belt One Road Initiative, OBOR. One Belt One Road Initiative. What was the logic under this? The Chinese government would basically provide or would announce this initiative where maritime routes would be developed, where right a physical infrastructure such as the roads or the right highways, etc., would be developed, connecting right basically different regions of the world. And so far, please understand, more than 150 countries are part of One Belt One Road Initiative, which was later renamed as a Belt and Road Initiative. Earlier it was OBOR. Now it has simply been renamed as a BRI. Is India party to the Belt and Road Initiative? Government of India said we are not going to be a party to this. But many other countries, right, including our neighbor country, including the arch enemy that is Pakistan, is a part of Belt and Road Initiative. Now, in recent times, please understand, this has become a point of conflict. Why? USA wants to expand its control over multiple countries in multiple regions. They're trying different ways to expand their influence. At the same point of time, China is also trying to expand its influence. And what has happened in the current administration, especially in the USA's current administration, is the way the policies are being revamped, the way the policies are being implemented, many countries are moving away from USA. They want to basically move away from USA and they're trying to find new partners in the market. And because of this, now have a look at this in the Latin markets, in the Latin region, and that is South American region. Now China is entering, becoming more and more influential. The latest country to join the bandwagon of the Belt and Road Initiative is Colombia. Very recently, a summit, right? A summit was held in China, basically bringing together the Latin American countries and China. During this particular summit, Colombia formally approved or formally signed an agreement to become a part of Belt and Road Initiative. Right? So these are certain important points associated with the article here. The last article which I'll cover is essentially the concept of concert economy. Very interesting article, by the way, or the term is more interesting. Concert economy. Now, please do let me know how many of you heard of the term walking GDP. Let me see. How many of you have heard the term walking GDP? Let me know in the chat section. How many of you heard of this? Walking GDP is associated with, right, let's say concerts. Associated with concerts. In the last 1.5 year, you must have heard of multiple concerts being held in India and also around the world, multiple countries around the world. Why this is called as a walking GDP, I'll tell you. Let's say there is a celebrity. For example, how many have heard of a Taylor Swift? Again, UPSC will not ask you the name of the celebrity, don't worry. How many have heard of Taylor Swift? Whenever there's a concert of Taylor Swift in any region, right, be it European market, be it in USA, etc., essentially you will see sudden rise in the economic activity in that particular region. Sudden rise in the economic activity. Sir, what do you mean by economic activity? The booking for hotels, the type of demand for, let's say, transportation, right, etc., etc. So suddenly there is a increased economic activity, and because these celebrities can kickstart or simply increase the economic activity which will contribute to GDP, they are generally referred to as a walking GDP. Everybody is able to understand? They are generally referred to as walking GDP. And again, I'm using Taylor Swift as an example because there is a whole debate which is happening around Taylor Swift called as Swiftonomics. There is a whole discussion that is happening. Is Swiftonomics permanent in nature or temporary in nature? Is it a blip or it is permanent change in the economic activity? That's the reason I'm taking example of Taylor Swift. Do not accuse me of basically supporting a singer from the foreign market. In India also we have lot of singers, lot of, right, like for example concerts are being held. Best example, Diljit Singh, right, or for that matter Arjit Singh. So there are multiple celebrities even in India which are known for basically contributing to this concept of a economic activity through concerts. Now what is the connection to the article here? Now the West Bengal government has announced that they will be setting up a park in an area of 25 acres. They'll be setting up a park which will basically be promoting the model of a concert economy. That's it. Beyond this, nothing else is important. They'll be setting up a park in an area of around 25 acres, which they'll be used or which will be used to promote concert economy in the right West Bengal market. Beyond this, right, absolutely nothing else is important. Done. So these are certain points, certain articles I wanted to cover in this particular discussion. Again, to reiterate, this is the QR code. If you want to download the PPT, you can use the QR code to join the Telegram channel. Now, if you have any questions, do let me know. Before that, what are the key answers? The genetically modified crops are regulated under the EPA 1986. Yes. India has developed world's first genetically edited rice variety. First genetically edited rice variety. Yes. India is the first country in the world to develop genetically edited rice variety. But if the statement is India is the first country to develop a genetically edited crop in the world, this will be incorrect. India is not the first. Like I said, even before India, multiple countries have tried it out. Multiple countries have developed genetically edited, right? Let's say agriculture commodities. India is not the first, but in the context of rice varieties, India will be the first. Both the statements are true. Right option will be option C. Next, MCQ 103. Consider the following statements regarding CJI Supreme Court of India. The oath to CJI is administered by the president. Yes. The CJI retires upon attaining the age of 65 years. Yes. The retirement age for HC and SC judges is the same. No. For HC, it is 62 years. For SC judges, it is 65 years. Right? So, third statement is incorrect. Right option will be option B. Only two of the three statements are correct. Now, any questions that you people have? Uh, Harshu, it also includes working in the informal sector. My dear, I believe you're talking about PLFS. Please understand, in PLFS, there is no discussion of formal and informal. The focus is on collection of data from the households. Collection of data from the households. If you are working in informal or formal, doesn't matter there. You are going to certain number of households and you're collecting the data. That is essentially the model of PLFS. Okay, done. Any other question? Any other doubt? Any other question? Rajesh, could you please share the material in PDF and not PPTX after the session? Okay, one more work for me. I'll do that. Any other question? Vikram, is there any deposit on which banks do not have to maintain SLR and CRR? Specifically, not deposit, but bonds, infrastructure bonds. That is also money collected by the banks. Okay. Okay, done then. So that's it from my side. Take care. See you tomorrow again, sharp at 10 a.m., where I'll be discussing again important articles from the current affairs, that is the Hindu newspaper. We will have a comprehensive discussion. Not to forget, if you like this initiative, do hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.